Hey everybody, this is Drew from Drew Story News. Welcome to another episode of the Drew Story News podcast. And yes, this is the podcast, not the YouTube channel. I think some people were a little confused by that because I have two channels. Yeah, I have Drew Story News, which is kind of the more established YouTube channel with more of an online presence. And I also have this newer channel, the podcast channel, because I stream on Spotify, Pandora, iTunes with the new podcast that I'm doing. And for those that are still used to the YouTube thing, I just made a channel to upload that audio to another YouTube platform channel. So I have two YouTube channels. So for those of you just catching on to this, yeah, this is what I've been doing for the past few months. So welcome to the podcast channel. And today we're going to jump right into the topic. In future episodes, I have some guests lined up for some great conversation on deck. But now we're going to talk about corruption deniers. Who or what is a corruption denier? Well, we all know what a conspiracy theorist is because the powers that be in the matrix that we live in want us to believe that people who go off script of what the government wants you to believe or what mainstream platforms are telling you, they're crazy conspiracy theorists. Tinfoil hat wearing loons. Where did that come from? Well, in 1967, the government was up to a lot of shady stuff, which they always are. And people were starting to find out. Lots of things were popping up. We were fighting an unjust war in Vietnam. So there was the military industrial complex pro-war agenda that people were starting to wake up to. So all that give peace a chance stuff started coming out. And we started to realize that the United States was just a military war-hungry machine. And a lot of the things we were doing were not right. And that those anti-war sentiments started growing. This very same tumultuous time period was also at the height of the civil rights movement and what they were doing to oppressed groups, primarily, obviously, black and brown people, were leaking out. The, Jim Crow era remnant laws and, mass incarceration and abuse to black and brown people was getting a world stage. The world was disgusted with the United States and what was going on. And, with Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, the assassinations, what they were doing, COINTELPRO got exposed eventually in 1971. But at the time, the country was living through racist COINTELPRO agendas that people were getting hip to, that there's something going on, that they're doing something. And things were just getting exposed left and right. They killed Kennedy. The Tuskegee was going on. the secret covert Tuskegee experiments were going on from 1931 to 1971. I'm sorry, 1932 to 1972. And so for about 40 years, the government was doing secret testing and all sorts of stuff. The government is very satanic and, up to stuff. And just so people understand, because they're already trying to deflect Tuskegee. Tuskegee is one of several things that they were doing secretly. They secretly sterilized Native American women. They secretly were doing mind control experiments. The government is really, really demonic, and they had lots and lots of demented, psychotic secret experiments and things they were doing and playing with wacky science. So where this trust in government is coming from, it's really fascinating because it's not rooted in common sense or reality. Why people blindly trust the government, beyond me. And from in the past to recent day, for long stretches of time, like Tuskegee alone was 40 years. Just up until 1972. That's not that long ago. Lots of weird stuff. Very evil, satanic stuff. They were under false pretenses. They were pretending to help people with inoculations and making them feel that it was for the better good, they were out for their health. But they were secretly sterilizing Native American women. eugenics programs, also in the 60s and the 70s that they were doing this. So they were doing Tuskegee, they were infecting the blacks, they were infecting Guatemalans, they were sterilizing Native Americans, they were doing all this demonic activity under the radar and only stopped when they got exposed and caught, not on their own. And this, folks, this is government that people are following to this day. But before we got to today's environment of brainwashed corruption deniers, back in the 60s and the 70s, people were waking up. There was a cultural revolution going on, and people were getting hip to what the government was and what the government was really up to behind the scenes and all their secret wheelings and dealings. And, you know, people were exposing the government left and right. People were rebelling against the system. So with all this stuff going on, the powers that be had no intention of stopping their covert demonic activity, but rather were more interested in regaining public trust, reshaping their image and doing better at concealment of these things. And so one of the things they did, the CIA in 1967 coined the term conspiracy theorist. And at the time, it wasn't necessarily a negative thing. It was just a literal name. Conspiracy theorist, someone who theorized conspiracies that may or may not have been true. But they coined this term strategically, and they loaded this kind of stigma on being labeled a conspiracy theorist. And the reason why the CIA coined that phrase and popularized it is to get to where we are today, where we have a nation of people that don't know how to think independently. And anyone that tries to is labeled a conspiracy theorist. This is where we are. You know, anything that is not on the mainstream news that you theorize, you're attacked and called a conspiracy theorist. Is everything people theorize true? No, of course not. I've heard some really whacked out things, and I'm not sure where these people are getting these things from. But there's a lot of things out there that are true. But if it's not on the mainstream news, it's shunned just the same. Regardless, the act of having a natural instinct and suspicion of government is actually very sane. You know, if you really know what government is and what they've been doing, what they still do, having a healthy skepticism is very sane, is very highly intelligent. Believing whatever the government tells you is not. But we live in a society now where everything is backwards. People want to see your sources. Basically, the government didn't approve your opinions. Like, show me your sources. Where are you getting this from? Are you thinking? This is where we're at. And instead of using any common sense, they want you to listen only to doctors and scientists, the ones that they approve of, not the ones telling you that this is all wrong. Those guys are quacks. No matter how long they've been practicing, just don't, anyone that goes against the system, they're quacks. But believe the doctors and scientists that go along with the agenda. And this is historically bad. I mean, because we have a problem, a psychological problem with some of the doctors and scientists that become protectors of the status quo, because there's a lot of ego there when you're an established doctor or scientist, and therefore it's too much of a psychological deep dive to admit you're indoctrinated or there's corruption with the corporate science that's being disseminated to the people. And this, folks, is the Rockefellerian way. John D. Rockefeller set things up this way, and set up the schools of higher learning this way. So he obliterated real health science, holistic health, naturopathic health, and he set up the schooling systems, the medical schooling systems, to basically train the whole medical field of doctors away from cures and holistic naturopathic health towards prescribing drugs and procedures, because this was more profitable. So we moved away from real health to more of a corporate health science that favors prescriptions. That's why to this day, people are out of their mind. They know nothing about health. And they can only tell you to take the shot, take the shot, take the shot. They don't know anything else. And this was the evolution to today. Many years ago, men like Rockefeller took the doctors, the smartest minds, away from, holistic naturopathic health that was pure, and brought them over to a new mindset of protecting the status quo of the corporate science. No more holistic cures, corporate science. And with this capitalist corporate science structure, doctors could be controlled. Doctors and scientists can be controlled. He set up schools so that you need to be accredited with his schools in order to have licenses to practice. And this system ever since has been in control, under lock and key. In fact, that's why, doctors and scientists have been used against the people for decades to sell cigarettes, to do all sorts of things. In fact, for the locals, the face of the Tuskegee experiments was a well-known black nurse named Eunice Rivers Laurie. Did she know the extent of what was going on? Maybe. But they had her as the coordinator of the whole thing, and she did it for years.
One reason so many men agreed to participate in the study is because of Nurse Rivers. She lived in Macon County and was a trusted member of the community. The government enlisted her aid in recruiting participants for the study and encouraging them to stay involved. The Public Health Service also asked Tuskegee Institute to help coordinate the study. By using trusted individuals and institutions, and by offering incentives such as free life insurance, the government was able to keep participants in the study year after year. In 1972, the secret of the Tuskegee experiment was uncovered. National news articles carried the story of the 40-year medical study that had so wrongly impacted hundreds of men and their families. Congressional hearings were held. There was a major public outcry, and a lawsuit was filed on behalf of the men. In an out-of-court settlement, the government agreed to pay $10 million and provide medical benefits to the survivors of the Tuskegee study and their descendants.
Believe the science. Just believe the doctors. They run the same games over and over and over again. We're living in this kind of era where free thought is discouraged. And that is why the government has gained so much ground with their agendas today, because people blindly trust the system. And this is spiritual, and I'm going to get to that. But first, let's discuss the corruption deniers. What is a corruption denier? Well, it's the antithesis of the conspiracy theorist. And in my opinion, this is one of the biggest problems we have going on today, because they've implemented so many programs that they've engineered to get people to this point. What's going on today is the most serious, important topic we have running right now. A lot of people with platforms do not talk about it because they're more interested in secondary issues. Because my feeling is that a lot of people don't understand the magnitude of what is going on right now and what's really happening and what this stuff means. The change, the new world that is at their door. They don't get it at all. There's some people who are pounding the pavement because they understand what's happening. They understand what is about to go down. But, it's safe to say a lot of people just don't know what's going on. So, corruption denier. I'm part of a WhatsApp group, my little tribe. And, we talk throughout the day, send each other things. And somebody posted a meme about the corruption deniers. And let me read what a corruption denier is. And why don't I do it in one of my voiceover voices? Are you a corruption denier? Do you believe everything the government, media, pharma complex tells you without thinking? Do alternative viewpoints make you angry? Do you lash out angrily if someone raises the possibility you've been duped by authorities? Do you often dismiss new information as a conspiracy theory to feel better about your familiar worldview? If so, you may be a corruption denier. Please consult your nearest conspiracy theorist for instruction on deprogramming. I think that's pretty good. And that is a very serious problem today. I don't mean to make light of this at all. This is a serious problem. And I learned just how grave this problem is when talking to people about, the COVID issues, the jabs, the masks. These people are gone. They're gone. And for that reason, I don't talk to anyone about these things. I don't post on my personal Facebook pages. I avoid these issues with people. But there are some people who are in your life that you're just going to always have in your life. For me, it's family. For me, it's very close friends. And, we end up talking about these issues. And you got to do so very carefully because people get upset, tempers flare up. Because one thing about me, I don't hold my tongue and I don't walk anything back. I vibrate in the truth. And unfortunately, a lot of people today do not vibrate in truth. And, a lot of people don't see the spiritual aspect to the brainwashing, the programming. A lot of people are brainwashed by the system and they trust the system. And, many people don't see how the system works us down to try to lower our vibration. And if you're not aware that the system is trying to do that, you can't even watch a movie without programming. You can't watch a TV show. You can't watch anything without subliminal messages and programming and mind control, getting you to lower your vibration for obedience. And just calling a spade a spade. The people who are duped by all that's going on and they can't see what the government is doing. Yeah, just being honest. They are on a lower vibration because high vibrational people can see this. They can see what's happening. They can feel it. It doesn't look right, doesn't feel right, doesn't sound right, the things that they're hearing. And to stand in your truth and be vocal about it may bring you some enemies because people are fighting for the system. Just like The Matrix. I got to tell you, some of these books and movies, they're telling you the truth.
The Matrix is a system, Neo. That system is our enemy. But when you're inside, you look around, what do you see? Businessmen, teachers, lawyers, carpenters, the very minds of the people we are trying to save. But until we do, these people are still a part of that system, and that makes them our enemy. You have to understand, most of these people are not ready to be unplugged. And many of them are so inert, so hopelessly dependent on the system, that they will fight to protect it. Were you listening to me, Neo? Or were you looking at the woman in the red dress?
I was...
Look again. Freeze it.
This isn't the Matrix.
No. It's another training program designed to teach you one thing. If you are not one of us, you are one of them.
What are they?
Sentient programs. They can move in and out of any software still hardwired to their system. That means that anyone we haven't unplugged is potentially an agent. Inside the Matrix, they are everyone, and they are no one.
You have to be careful when you're in a higher vibration and when you're spiritually a high vibrational person with your gut instincts intact, your connection with the Most High intact, and your ability to see through schemes and lies intact. You're going to piss people off when you stand in your truth and you don't back down and people want you to compromise with foolishness because, it's almost as though they need you to validate delusions. And I won't. And inadvertently, especially with people I love and people, family and close friends, my aim is not to insult. My goal is not to be condescending. My goal is never to make anyone feel bad. But when you vibrate in truth and you speak about the issues today, people are going to get triggered. People are going to get offended. And they think that you're the problem when you're not. It's like being a part of a cult, even though they echo the sentiments of and represent majority opinion. The majority of people are in the same damn cult. And when you crack that delusion with your confidence, with your, sometimes things you say can be seen as being dismissive, but it's not being dismissive. It's just like, I'm not going to agree that 2 + 2 is 5. And it's not. I'm not going to compromise. And, there were conversations that got heated because people feel or misinterpreted what I had to say without realizing that it's actually me and people like me who are always backed up against the wall, attacked by everyone because we're not accepting the matrix programming of lies and deception. And they want you to agree with the mainstream government subsidized, pharmaceutical subsidized rhetoric. And when you vibrate above it and you see that the corporate system is corrupt, it triggers people because it's like, okay, you're saying that there's something wrong with me. Indirectly, inadvertently, yeah, by default, but that's not you or me in this case trying to make that point or make myself better than anyone else. But simply being you, vibrating high, it triggers people because it says to them subconsciously, what, are you better than me? But in truth, just being real and honest, these people are on a lower vibration and they're trying to bring you down to accept the corporate system, the matrix. They're corruption deniers. They don't want to think anything's wrong. And they're trying to drag you down like Agent Smith to get you back in place because your high vibration above the system can be irritating to some people. And so there's a lot of people out there that are, that are struggling. They're complaining that, oh, I don't know what's wrong with my family. They're all brainwashed. They're all coming at me all the time. Hey, there's no reason to spend your energy in that direction. It's not purposeful. Respect the vibration that these people are on. And I don't advise engaging these people because it can go one of two ways. One way, they can think you're crazy. They can think you're an idiot and write you off. And that's going to make you feel bad. And that's going to lower your vibration. Or in my case, because I'm really good at talking and debating, they're going to think you're condescending and you're an elitist. And when they throw that at you, in the same way, they're still gonna lower your vibration and make you feel bad because you don't want to. That's not what you're trying to do. You're not trying to make yourself better than anyone. It's just that you know what is true and you vibrate in it, and you're not gonna accept nonsense. Standing in that truth, either you're gonna get ridiculed or harassed, or you're gonna get the "who do you think you are?" Either way, not good for your spirit, not good for your energy. During these times, your energy is better served elsewhere. This is how the masses operate, and it's not good for the awake crowd because they're going to think you're crazy, or something you say they're going to take as condescending, or they're just going to take it a certain way. And the greatest minds that vibrated in truth all dealt with this. This was true of Plato. This was true of Socrates. They all dealt with this. People don't get you because they're locked in the matrix of crowd groupthink. And, they want you to bend, and they want to. With Socrates, they were the sophists who were the smart guys. And Socrates was kind of destroying everything they believed. And when you get people in their ego triggered, like, you're not, why do you got to talk to me like that? Like, what, are you smarter than me? You think you're better than me? Well, calling a spade, there is a problem with the way a lot of people are thinking today because they're not thinking. They're being so misled, misinformed, And they believe a lot of nonsense, and they believe whatever their government is telling them, whatever the pharmaceutical companies are telling them, whatever the establishment is telling them. And they don't want to acknowledge the corruption deniers. They don't see the many contradictions, the hypocrisy, the lies, the weird shenanigans getting exposed. They see nothing because they don't want to. And people who vibrate in a higher vibration will seem like they're offensive because it's the truth. The truth offends people today. And you have a nation of people believing nonsense. They're not connected to their higher self. They're not connected to Source, the Most High. They're not connected to their ancestors. They're socially engineered to be low vibrational. And they don't know how to think anymore. They need news clippings. They need the media. They need a scientist. They need this. They in order to think and reason, they've lost themselves, and they're lost in the world, and they're lost in the matrix, and they believe this system's lies. They don't follow the Most High. They're listening to man. They're listening to the teaching of this demonic system. They're literally walking around like entities, like zombies, walking around wearing masks, And no, this is not a Trump thing or a pro-Trump thing or a Republican versus Democrat thing. Please don't come to my channel with the political mind control stuff. This is not a platform for that. I'm apolitical, but no matter where your politics lies, masks were socially engineered. Definitely a part of the agenda of the scene today. I was eating the other day, and these people were walking in with masks, and I'm just watching them like I'm in a safari. These people today are fascinating, and they walk in wearing the mask, and they sit down, and then they remove the mask right before they eat. Mind you, in NYC, no one's enforcing this right now. So I'm there not wearing a mask. The staff not wearing a mask. These people are voluntarily doing this. And actually, I think businesses might be required. I'm not sure, but this was a healthy vegan spot. And I actually spoke to the owner before, and she knows the deal. And I know she's a very health conscious, spiritually high vibrational person who into holistic health. And she wasn't about to have her staff wear this stuff. So that's probably the reason why the staff wasn't wearing masks, but people were voluntarily walking in with masks, sitting there with the mask indoors and outdoors and waiting for the food, and removed the mask as the food came. I'm like, these are trained monkeys. This is bad. This is not okay. And it's actually disgusting because the mask doesn't do anything. And, we've known that. Some of us have known that for quite some time, that there was something else going on with the CDC's decision to get everyone in masks. There was an agenda there. And you see how they trained the people. First, it was just... first, Fauci and many scientists were coming out saying, yeah, this is not necessary. This is not how they work. And they're not going to do anything for this kind of virus, especially the cloths, the bandanas, and these surgical masks. They do nothing. And that science is still truth today. N95, we can debate. But what's not debatable, do we need to do this as a society? No. There is no evidence supporting that masks are stopping or preventing spreading of this virus. But most people don't understand that. They believe that it is helping because that's what they're being told. But there was never any peer-reviewed scientific proof that it does. It's just a program, another program that they've normalized. And they did it in stages. First, if you want to, and then they kind of slowly then made it compulsory. Same thing like they're doing with the jab. Exact same pattern. And no, these people are not bad. They believe they're being good and socially responsible by complying. And yet it's disgusting. It's nasty because these people, they don't really know about holistic health and what's really more important in a situation like that. They just believe what they're told so wholeheartedly that they're walking around collecting the waste in their face. Some people even get rashes and, skin. Some people have reported skin issues from doing this. Some people reported respiratory issues from doing this. But the masses, they just still do it dutifully because they believe what they're told. They hold this thing onto their face. They're collecting their carbon dioxide and waste in their face. And then they slide it off to eat when the food comes. They're so naive. They're so naive. And they believe and trust this system so much that they really think it's about the science. It's about health, that the government wants to help them and stamp out COVID. They really believe this, and it's sad. And this is what we're talking about. Corruption deniers. People who don't want to wake up to what the system really is and the government's level of corruption and deception and lying and scheming. This is what they always do. So if you dare try communicating these things to friends and family, there's a naivete that you just cannot break through. Even if you show them direct references to what they were going to do 20 years prior, talking about PPE and masks, they won't get it. Even if you show them direct references to similar situations like the swine flu, anthrax, H1N1, this is your government. This is what they do. This is how they lie. This is the plan. This is what they want. They don't have the ability to catch it. The government, they're not good. It's a demonic system that has agendas attached to it. And one of the agendas is getting you into this new digital interface where your medical history is all digitized, and they know which jabs you took and which jabs you didn't, and they're going to control you with this new technology coming down the pike where they know what boosters you're up for. Mr. Anderson, I see you haven't had your booster. This is where we're going. But they're so naive. They don't see it. They don't get it. So they're sitting there like lambs to the slaughter, and they just think that the government is going to help them, and it's giving them information to stop COVID. And, I'm having conversations with people that I have to back away because they say things that are completely ridiculous. And they're saying, it's because people are not wearing masks and blah, blah, blah. They didn't get jabbed. These people believe that if you get the jab or you wear the mask, this will stop COVID. And because people are not doing these things and not following the CDC rules and guidelines, then it's spreading because people are not complying. This is what they believe. And this is why I advise people do not converse with these people. You can't even tell them that the lockdowns and the masks, there's no real peer-reviewed evidence that they did anything, because they'll probably bark and bite you like a dog. I'm not even kidding. And I made a point once in a conversation, not meaning to be dismissive, but just stating a fact. If you're debating or having a conversation with someone who believes the government lies, or the lies from the CDC, the lies from the pharmaceutical industry, you really can't have a constructive conversation. There's no point, because we disagree on a fundamental thing. There is no room for a real constructive conversation. When I started my YouTube channel, my first YouTube channel, I had all these viral videos because I did these big exposés exposing government lies and media lies. And I would just pick things apart and show people how what they're being shown on television was BS. And those videos took off. And this was before they were doing all this shadow banning and censoring. My videos used to be healthy and I used to get lots of views until they shadow banned me. But I'm not new to this. So like when they do this stuff and they present this information, I'm a pro at this point. You know, I know what's going on. And when people just drink the Kool-Aid of what the CDC and the government is telling them, like, we can't move forward. We can't have a conversation. You believe everything they tell you. I can't talk to you. We don't agree. And if this was years ago, I would have a field day of viral videos shutting this down. But, you know, obviously, I'm not allowed to today. They shut us down, like the people who do what we do. And not on this topic. Maybe some other topics they let go. On this topic, no one's allowed to say anything. So I can't attack it. But it's just ridiculous what people believe. The contradictions, the lies that are right in people's face. I mean, the lies were so extensive. I mean, there was one news clip where they were running around. They were going crazy at Elmhurst Hospital in Brooklyn. And they were saying there was all these bodies and they were dragging. It was like, it looked horrific, but somebody was there and was tweeting, yo, like, I'm outside. What you're seeing on TV, none of that's there. There's no bodies. And they've been doing this for months, propagandizing the people and just telling people, you know, fake information to push an agenda. And you either see it or you don't. If you don't, you know, we just have to respectfully disagree. It's really purposeless having a conversation with these people who are locked in these programs. You have to just love these people and move on, plant seeds, and people who are able to respond or to think, they'll come back to you. I have friends and family that speak to me privately because they know they can't talk to everyone else because they're done. But people who are waking up, they'll respond. But the people who can't, you just got to let them go. You have to. And it's going to get testy. It's going to get argumentative. You know, it could go that route. You just got to let people go and let them live their own journey and learn things on their own. Because there is a culling, there's a reaping, and, you know, it has to commence, and it is what it is. You have to stand out of the way of people choosing their own reality, and you can't be forceful and shake people down to believe what you believe. If they don't get it, they don't. Let it be. Now, the reaping, the culling, that is a topic maybe I'll address another day, because this is very much a spiritual war going on. And you're seeing people who are stuck in their lower vibrations. They can't ascend. They can't vibrate high. And there's a whole variety of these types of people who are locked in a lower vibration. Some of them, you know, religious people, quote unquote religious people who are in religious programs, you know, it's so powerful, the demonic hold over this dimension in which people feel that they are in touch with their higher selves when they're not. And they're listening to the world. They're listening to the government. They're listening to man. And they think that this is good. While they worship their gods, the God that they worship, whether they're Christian, whether they're whomever. And some of these people don't see where they're being led by their political party. A lot of Democrats are on this pro-mask, pro-jab, you know, thing. And it's sad to see. You know, it's very sad to see. People are pro-jab or pro-mask or anti-jab, anti-mask purely based on their politics. So not everybody who's against this agenda is woke and spiritual. You know, I do, you know, admit that. But there's just a lot of people who are stuck on political plantations in religious programs, and they think they're thinking in their higher self, and they're not. They're disconnected, and the Matrix owns these people. And you'll notice, just like the Matrix, which is a documentary, it's not just a movie. Agent Smith shows up whenever you start talking a little bit too much truth. If you're having discussions with friends or family, and it goes to a certain topic. Watch. Agent Smith is going to show up. You know how in the Matrix, how Agent Smith can be any person at any time and show up in one of the people that are not unplugged? And I'm sure many people have said the same thing, have made the same connection. But a lot of us truth channels are kind of in the same thought wave. But how Agent Smith can show up in one of the people still plugged into the Matrix at any time. That is exactly what's happening, metaphorically speaking, when you're having a discussion, friends, family. Agent Smith is going to show up in one of them to try to come at you, to try to check you, to try to lower your vibration if you vibrate in truth. And it happens all the time, which is why I don't advise trying to reach people. Because if you're not getting it now, with all the things and the shenanigans going on, the handing out burgers and lottery tickets to get you jabbed up, if you can't see that the government is up to something, and you cannot see the tyrannical takeover, forcing people to get it, or you get fired and you can't get unemployment, and they're making it mandatory everywhere. If you vibrate with this, if this doesn't bother you, well then yeah, you would be in that group of people where, respectfully, it's just not worth communicating with you on these issues because there's things that this group of people just don't want to see, can't see, and don't take into consideration. And I say that respectfully, not dismissively and not condescendingly. I just say it as a matter of fact. If you see what's going on, there's people stressing out because their livelihood, their nurses, teachers, people who have been at their jobs all their lives, and the government is making a tyrannical move with this experimental jab that has not had enough testing, that has killed over 13,000 people and counting, that already has a lot of side effects, with many more, presumably many more, that will come to light eventually. They're trying to normalize this thing, that they're trying to bulldoze it and force people to take it. If people are that spiritually weak that they don't see the demonic hand that is moving and trying to make a chess move right now, then these people never will. They never will. And they separate everything. They'll argue with you about masks and just keep it contained to that. They'll argue with you about the efficacy of the jab and just keep it contained to that. But they don't want to talk about all this stuff. They don't want to talk about what the government's doing. They don't want to talk about the weirdness. They don't want to talk about the VAERS reporting system that has 13,000 deaths. They don't want to talk about the ethical issue of what they're doing. All these things that have tentacles that are related, directly connected to this jab situation. They don't want to discuss it. They want to just keep it contained into a conversation they can handle and control. But they don't want to discuss everything attached to it. Do you believe that your government is correct in mandating this thing and forcing people to do it? Do you think that this is good? Does it make you feel like, yeah, this is good? Because if it doesn't, they don't want to admit it, because it's going to crack at everything else they believe, and they're protecting their beliefs and their delusions right now. They're in the ego. They don't want to lose an inch, because that's how cults work. They don't want to entertain something that makes them feel like, hey, I might be on the wrong side here. So yeah, that's a lot of me talking. So let me wrap this up. I can do this all day. So moving forward, if you are one who got the shot, more power to you. That's your choice, and I respect that. And it's not my intention to make anyone feel uncomfortable, to insult anyone. If I did it inadvertently, my apologies. That's not my intent. I am just telling people the truth. And if you are someone who got the jab, that's fine as your decision. But we shouldn't be people who get the jab and help oppress other people who didn't and work with the demonic system in place, the machine. You can be someone supportive of your decision to get the jab and not be discriminatory or oppressive to other people, because that's just not it. And we are going to find, no matter what side of the fence you fall on, you're going to find that that is unequivocally, clearly the wrong side of history. We need to cut that nonsense out with the fighting and the name calling, and everyone that doesn't do it is stupid. And that's programming. That's mind control programming. They got you. They do so many psych agendas on the populace that it's insane how they get you to think a certain way, how they get the majority. They know they're not going to get everyone, but they have so many programs that they've implemented. Oh yeah, they've been experimenting on you. And through the years, they've collected so much information, and they've learned from Nazi Germany. They've learned from Joseph Goebbels. They learned from Edward Bernays. They've learned from Pavlov. They've learned from so many thinkers and compiled so much data to use it on you and against you. And they're doing it now. You can see it now. So don't work for the machine. If you believe the efficacy, that's fine. Don't be wound up to attack your fellow citizens for the government or big pharma. And for those of you standing against this, I wish you health and strength. Stand in your square. Stand in your truth. Don't fall into despair. Be powerful. Be patient. We are all getting downloads like you wouldn't believe. Me personally, I'm waking up in the middle of the night almost every night with new downloads. This is a powerful time in which a shift is happening.
We have survived by hiding from them, by running from them. But they are the gatekeepers. They are guarding all the doors. They are holding all the keys, which means that sooner or later, someone is going to have to fight them.
Someone.
I won't lie to you, Neil. Every single man or woman who has stood their ground, everyone who has fought an agent has died. But where they have failed, you will succeed.
Why?
I've seen an agent punch through a concrete wall. Men have emptied entire clips at them and hit nothing but air. Yet their strength and their speed are still based in a world that is built on rules. Because of that, they will never be as strong or as fast as you can be.
What are you trying to tell me? That I can dodge bullets?
No, Neo. I'm trying to tell you that when you're ready, you won't have to.
Trust yourself. Trust your instinct. Don't give in to fear. Stand in your truth. It's crazy and probably going to get crazier. But one day, you'll be standing on the other side of all this, more powerful, wiser, and thankful that you did stand in your power. All right, guys, until the next one, be well.